Good Saturday afternoon. This one's a thought about the word explosion and what it means. This is back into wordplay and word definitions. But an explosion, each person has a picture in their mind of what an explosion looks like. They're thinking of a very fast bang, a quick detonation, and a very quick reaction. And that quick reaction is a massive expansion of energy and gases in a discrete time, very fast. That's an explosion, right? A firecracker, an explosion. Maybe a car accident a few seconds later results in an explosion of the fuel tank or the battery bank. So, an explosion, in most terms, is this instantaneous thing that happens. So, back to chemical engineering and reactor reality. The reactor I worked with, am experienced with, world class, produced a third of a precursor plastic product, had an exothermic reactor. The compound it was burning turned into plastic. Really that simple, but it was an exothermic reaction so hot that it had to be contained inside of a reactor. This material actually, if you had a container of it, when you open the container up, the odds are it would explode. A real explosion in real time and be done. Inside that reactor that ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as long as it could until it needed maintenance, or market conditions needed it to slow down, so we would run one reactor instead of two, or in a maintenance mode, one reactor string and switch condenser set would go into maintenance and the other one would up its outputs. So there were actually two of these exothermic operating reactors that ran 24 hours a day. When they shut down, for them to cool off enough, these were liquid salts cooled reactors. So, and again, we had to pull steam off of that. We had to pull heat off of that. It's 600 pounds that we used in the rest of the process to do 600 pounds steam work, right? Which is high temperature. It kept the rest of the process superheated, very basically to keep the plastic as a gas until it was made into a liquid, and then it had to keep it heated as a liquid to travel through the pipes, and it might get cold out in storage tanks depending on the storage duration. But we kept huge storage tanks heated. Then when a box car or a rail car came in, we used that 600-pound steam to superheat the rail car and keep it liquid, and we filled the rail car up, and it probably arrived at the client site as a liquid. When it got there, rail car again across the nation or even overseas. Other ways to ship the materials, but this is one of them. So yeah, it travels around as a basically superheated liquid. It's kept above the boiling point of water inside those tanks. So that is a reactor. That reactor, and it kind of a key is it's an exothermic reactor. Means if it continues combustion, you have to pull heat off of it, or it's an explosion. So yeah, that's what that reactor was, a contained explosion. So when people say that word explosion, um, there's different ways that explosions happen, which gets you into a nuclear reactor. When that fuel pool is boiling, that is an explosion at the surface level of that fuel rod. But because it's in water, the gas is diffused, the heat is diffused, you don't see it as an explosion. If you looked at it, you would get irradiated because it's an explosion. If you got too close, if the water is a mediator, wasn't there because of all of the isotopes that come out of that. So I just skipped from a single very specific exothermic reactor and reaction and controls and systems. Again, for that plastic reactor to start running, it took days of preheating with natural gas to get everything hot enough inside, to get everything dry enough inside, to turn on the next level of fuel, which it was tested as a rocket fuel. So that's the stuff that's there. That's the things we do. That's a reactor explosion, a controlled explosion inside of a reactor that runs 24 hours a day. It's a nuclear reactor. A nuclear reactor is a controlled explosion. If the reactor gets out of control, a real explosion happens. And that's what happened at Fukushima. This is release estimates. This is hundreds of isotopes released over a period of time. Time is a factor in this. If you speed it up, Fukushima, and the months of those vapors escaping from that plant into minutes, it would look like an explosion. That's what it is. It is a slow, uncontrolled explosion. It's burning. It's a chemical reaction that you can term a lot of ways, and it really isn't termed an explosion because of the duration of the burn. Anyway, explosions. The word explosion. The challenge is to understanding what it's being applied to and if it should be applied. So, the Fukushima daiichi is an ongoing explosion inside of Chernobyl. Buried around those areas are ongoing explosions. They are nuclear reactions, but bring on the isotopes, bring on the months of discussions to get to understanding where the conversation begins to make some relevance. And cancer statistics say in Europe, not being able to eat wild boar because they consume a lot of roots and a lot of mushrooms, and the biological uptake path for the boar has a heavy burden of those isotopes. No problem, no. No problem, no. The dogs at Chernobyl, no problem. The Chernobyl children in Cuban hospitals to this day, no problem. Zero effect, right?